In a small village of Bethlehem, a woman named Naomi returns after a decade of hardship in a foreign land. The people whisper as they see her, a shadow of her former self.
But Naomi isn't alone. By her side is Ruth, a Moabite woman, her daughter-in-law. What would possess a young foreign widow to leave her homeland and stand by Naomi, despite having no obligation? What story binds them together?
The story begins with Naomi, her husband Elimelech, and their 2 sons leaving Bethlehem due to a severe famine.
They travel to Moab, a neighboring country, in search of survival. However, tragedy soon strikes. Elimelech dies, leaving Naomi a widow.
Her 2 sons marry Moabite women Orpah and Ruth, but after 10 years, both sons also die, leaving Naomi, Orpah, and Ruth as widows.
Naomi, heartbroken and bitter, hears that the famine in Bethlehem has ended and decides to return to her homeland.
She urges her daughters-in-law to stay behind in Moab, to return to their families, and to remarry.
Orpah, though hesitant, eventually agrees and bids Naomi farewell.
But Ruth, with tear-filled eyes, refuses to leave Naomi's side.
"Where you go, I will go, where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried."
Naomi, moved by Ruth's loyalty, realizes that her daughter-in-law is determined to stay with her, no matter what. The 2 women arrive in Bethlehem, but Naomi is filled with bitterness, telling the villagers to call her Mara, meaning bitter, for she feels that the hand of God has turned against her. They have nothing, no land, no wealth, no men to provide for them. Ruth takes it upon herself to find food and provide for Naomi. She goes to a field to glean, which is to gather leftover grain after the harvesters have passed through. Unbeknownst to Ruth, the field she chooses belongs to a man named Boaz,
a wealthy and kind relative of Naomi's late husband. Boaz notices Ruth's hard work and learns of her unwavering loyalty to Naomi.
He is impressed and instructs his workers to leave extra grain behind for her to gather.
When Ruth returns home with an abundance of grain, Naomi is curious and asks whose field she worked in. Upon hearing that it was Boaz's field, Naomi sees a glimmer of hope.
Boaz, as a close relative, has the legal right to act as a kinsman redeemer, a person who could marry Ruth and restore their family's lineage.
Naomi devises a plan.
She instructs Ruth to approach Boaz during the night at the threshing floor where he will be working.
Ruth, obedient and trusting of Naomi's guidance, follows the plan.
When Boaz finishes his work and lies down to rest, Ruth goes to him and uncovers his feet, a traditional sign of submission, indicating that she seeks his protection. Boaz awakens, startled, and Ruth humbly asks him to redeem her by marrying her, as per their custom.
Boaz is both honored and touched by Ruth's integrity.
He tells her that while he is willing, there is a closer relative who has the first right to redeem her.
Boaz assures Ruth that he will settle the matter by morning. The next day, Boaz goes to the town gate, where legal matters are settled.
He meets the closer relative and explains the situation. The man declines, as redeeming Ruth would complicate his own inheritance.
Boaz, joyful and relieved, publicly announces that he will redeem Ruth by marrying her. Boaz and Ruth marry, and their union brings joy not just to them but also to Naomi, who feels her life is being restored after so much loss.
Ruth gives birth to a son, Obed, who brings Naomi comfort and purpose once again. The women of Bethlehem bless Naomi, telling her that Ruth has been better to her than 7 sons.